Howdy. Have you ever seen the terms main idea and theme and just been really confused because you're not sure which one is which? Let me help you figure out the difference with today's critical reading analysis skills video on exploring main ideas and themes. This is our proficiency rubric for today's video. At the end, hopefully you can say that you are proficient or highly proficient in these skills. Feel free to pause the video so you can see what those skills should look like. Today's agenda is identifying themes and main ideas, how to develop them, and then how to analyze them. And as always, I'm trying to keep these videos as short as I can, so I won't explain some things in detail. If you want more information, feel free to look up some information afterward. Let's talk about identifying themes and main ideas and telling the difference. So I'm going to put all of these here so I can show you the differences with our color coding. So main idea is generally what the text is about. What's going on? What do I need to know? A theme is what is the life lesson you're taking away from the story. So it is a little different from main idea, what it's about versus what do I learn from this. Main idea is generally only specific to that text. There's usually not really any other text exactly like this one. Obviously, an exception might be articles talking about the same thing, but generally speaking, main ideas, because it's about what the text is about, it really only applies to that one text. Whereas a theme is general and can apply to many different stories. For example, love is a wonderful thing is covered in a lot of different stories, so it's general enough that you can use it in many different places. A main idea is usually just a very short one-sentence summary of a text, where a theme is just kind of an idea that's a deeper meaning in a story, so it gives you a better idea of why the characters are doing what they're doing. And then a main idea can be applicable to any text, whether it's informational or a story, whereas a theme is really only applicable to a story because a main idea is what the text is about, but a theme is more about what you learn from the text, and stories are really the main places where you're trying to learn something from it. So that's kind of the main difference of main ideas versus themes. And then because themes are a little bit harder to identify because they're not usually addressed in the story, things to look for, because they are subtle, they're difficult to identify until you get to the end of the story, and they're based on reader's interpretation. That's why a theme is pretty hard to see. And do know that it is possible to identify a different theme from someone else because it is based on the reader's interpretation. Some themes are obvious enough, everyone sees it, but there are some maybe subtle differences people might find when they're identifying theme. So when you're trying to do that, pay attention to the main conflicts between characters, the characters' actions and thoughts, how characters grow and change, and then any repeated symbols or events. And this really comes down to the author's usually trying to teach a lesson, so anything they put in the story is something you need to pay attention to. And theme is normally tied to all of these things. So if it helps give you an idea of the difference between main idea and theme, think of main idea as a plate of spaghetti. It's really obvious what it is. You can see exactly what's going on, and there's really no other dish that's called spaghetti that's completely different. Spaghetti is spaghetti. It's the same all the time, and it really only applies to this one dish. Whereas theme is more like a seasoning, where it's kind of subtle and you don't really notice it's there until you've kind of started eating the spaghetti and had several bites, and then you can tell that it's in there. And you can also put seasoning on different dishes, so it's a little bit more applicable to a wider range of places, kind of like theme. All right, now let's talk about how themes and main ideas are developed. So main ideas, when you're trying to develop them, and this is geared more towards informational texts, that'll usually start with an introduction where the central point of the text is either directly spoken through a topic sentence or indirectly provided through a scenario or a question. And then there's usually supporting details for the main idea, so explanations about it, any facts or examples or quotes that prove it or show more information about it. And then you'll usually have the author providing some connections, so how this information can connect to like other parts of the world or other parts of your life, how this information fits together, and any lessons that maybe you've learned already in life and how this information could fit into that. And then usually the main idea will be reinforced at the end by being restated in a new way. just to reemphasize the purpose of the text. Like we've talked about in the conclusion video, you want to remind the reader of what you were just talking about. So this is usually how main ideas are generally developed. Whereas themes are developed a little differently. There is an introduction also, but this is more for, again, themes are for stories. So usually at the beginning of a story, the character encounters a problem, usually related to a big idea like love or death. And then you'll see the characters do actions or have struggles. They'll make decisions, they'll face challenges, they'll have reactions to these events that help you kind of see the beginning stages of the theme normally. There's often repeated patterns and symbols like events, imagery, or dialogue. And this is usually to start really reinforcing that underlying message and to start building that life lesson. You'll start seeing it come together. And then you have your resolution where the conflict is resolved and the characters adjust to a new world or a new normal. And so your job as the reader is to take all this information, look at how the characters changed, what they gained or lost, and that information should give you an idea into what was the life lesson, what was the theme that the author was trying to get across. Now, there are definitely a lot of texts out there that explore multiple main ideas or multiple themes in the same text. They're usually related to each other, so let me give you some examples. For a text with two main ideas, you might have the first main idea being the dolphins at the city zoo all have the same disease. But main idea number 2 could be zoos should change how they take care of dolphins. So notice the topic is the same, dolphins, but it looks like maybe the first half of the article talked about this disease at the zoo, whereas the last half of the article then talked about what zoos should do to take better care of those dolphins so they don't get that disease. And then the example of a text with two themes might look like theme number 1 being, don't be quick to judge, you never know what someone's going through. And then theme 2 might be, it's okay to ask for help when you're struggling. So same thing as with the main idea, the topic is usually the same, in this case, someone struggling. But maybe you learned theme number 1 from the character outside of the struggle who notices someone struggling and maybe judged it first and then realized, oh, this is an issue, like I need to help them. Whereas theme number 2 is maybe explored by the character who was struggling and maybe didn't ask for help, but then learned by the end that maybe you should. So that was just two themes explored by different characters within the same story, and that's pretty common. So just look for connections between different people and events in the text and how they're similar or different. Again, usually it's over the same topic, but explored in a few different ways. So the main thing you need to know is that development of main idea or theme really comes down to how well the author cooked or how well they developed that theme by kind of letting it build up with a lot of explanation and a lot of detail and a lot of events. The more information or like the more ingredients are in the text, the better that the main idea or the theme will be developed. And finally, when you're wanting to analyze theme and main ideas, it is good to think about if the text did a good job getting the point across, because we have probably read texts before that weren't all that good. So it's okay to critique what was good and what was bad. So when you're reading a text, think about things like, how well did the author fully develop the main idea or theme? Did they do a good job cooking, as we said earlier? Was the main idea or theme deep enough or age appropriate enough for the reader? So was this something that either you shouldn't be reading because it's too mature for you, or was it too childish? Did the main idea or theme feel like a natural part of the text, or did it feel like the author really forced the text to fit a specific message, but it just felt kind of awkward or cringy? Some people call that being too preachy in their writing because they're preaching a message that is a little like, hey, well, you don't need to be like super intense about this. And finally, was the text organized enough that you understood what the main idea or theme was? Because sometimes texts are not organized well and you really don't know what's going on. So yeah, just know that some stories are going to cook really well, or some texts will cook really well and develop their main idea or theme well, and some won't. Some of them will have terrible main idea or theme organization, and you won't really know what you were supposed to get out of it. Now, let's look at some examples so we can reinforce how those main ideas and themes are developed. So in this first example, for main idea development, it says, exercise is one of the best ways to stay healthy. According to a recent study, it strengthens the heart, improves mood, and boosts energy levels. People who exercise regularly often find they can focus better in school or work and handle stress more easily. They also notice how much happier or calmer they feel afterward, especially if they have mental health struggles. In short, regular exercise is a simple habit that leads to a stronger body and mind. So we have our introduction introducing the main idea, which is that exercise helps you stay healthy. We have our supporting details of the recent study and all the things that exercise does to make you better. We have our connections, and this one is connecting exercise to work and exercise to mental health and how exercise can help both of those things. And then we've got our reinforcement where we're again restating that exercise leads to a stronger body and mind, so rephrasing the intro a little bit. So taking this development together, we can probably assume that our main idea is what the text is about, which is exercise helps you be healthy in multiple ways. And then for our theme development example, we have Maya wanted to win the science fair so badly that she thought about copying a project she saw online. She worked hard on her own project at first, but when it got difficult, she almost gave up and returned to the idea of cheating. Each time she tried to copy answers from Google, her project had problems working correctly, while honest effort fixed those problems. On the day of the fair, Maya presented her original project, which didn't win first place, but earned praise for creativity and honesty. So we've got our honesty where our character encounters a problem, which is wanting to win the science fair and thinking about cheating. Then she struggles with the idea of cheating, especially because her project got really difficult, and so her action is to return to cheating. We have repeated patterns of every time she cheats, her project has problems. Every time she doesn't cheat, her project gets fixed. So you see the author emphasizing cheating equals oops, not cheating equals yay. And then our resolution is that even though she doesn't win like she wanted to, she did earn praise for creativity and honesty. And the resolution usually lets us know what did they learn from this scenario, which we can probably assume one of those life lessons is that it's better to try your best and be honest than to cheat. She wasn't awarded with like a first place medal, but she was awarded with praise. So maybe, that's still something that she valued a lot. We could actually take a second theme from this, which is that cheating can often make your life harder, not easier. So this first theme talks about the perks of being honest. The second theme talks about the consequences of cheating. So these are two different themes. They're both kind of explored a little bit in this text. They're both about cheating, and one of them is basically talking about the positives of not doing it, and one on the negatives of doing it. And so that is main ideas and themes, how to identify it, how to see how it should be developed properly, and then assessing whether it's actually any good. So hopefully you feel a little bit more proficient on main ideas and themes. So happy hunting on main ideas or themes in your reading, and I will see you in the next video.